Before we get into the video, please leave a like. Again, you guys definitely helped out last week. I appreciate it. Let's get to 150 this time. Steelers at Browns. A game no more for the catch of the year thus far, and a bad beat on the last play of the game. The Steelers found themselves up 1 at the half, but the second half was all Browns as they outscored Pittsburgh 16-3. Jacoby Brissett, with the help from Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, and David Njoku, had a nice day on offense. Steelers rookie wide receiver George Pickens pulled down a one-handed catch that's being compared to Odell Beckham's in 2014. Odell's was better in my opinion. And on the final play of the game, the Steelers tried to lateral their way into the end zone, but they ended up in their own end zone, which cost people a lot of money. Saints at Panthers. I was high on the Saints coming into this year, but I kind of regret it now. The Panthers were able to secure their first win of the year, and they had control all afternoon. The scoring started with an Alvin Kamara fumble that was returned for a touchdown, and the Saints didn't score their first points until the fourth quarter. Saints kicker Will Lutz missed 2 field goals, and a 67-yard touchdown catch by Laviska Shenault put the exclamation point on this one. Texans at Bears. This game pretty much went how I expected it to go. Justin Fields looked awful passing the ball, and Davis Mills had a couple of costly interceptions himself. Bears linebacker Roquan Smith had 16 tackles, including the game-winning interception. Khalil Herbert filled in for the injured David Montgomery and carried the Bears offense with 157 rushing yards. Texans rookie Jalen Petre had 2 interceptions on Justin Fields' overthrows, but the game ended with a Cairo Santos 30-yard field goal to give the Bears the win. Chiefs at Colts. The Colts really needed to show something this week, and they finally did it. With 2 receiving touchdowns from their rookie tight end Jelani Woods, including the go-ahead touchdown, the Colts took a late 3-point lead. The Chiefs tried to get in the field goal range with 30 seconds to go, but a tip ball was intercepted by Rodney McLeod, and the Colts got their first win of 2022. There was a controversial taunting call on Chiefs defensive lineman Chris Jones that prolonged the Colts' final drive, and without that, the Chiefs would have probably won. Bills at Dolphins. The much anticipated matchup between the undefeated AFC East teams lived up to the hype. It was a pretty sloppy game where both teams kept exchanging points, but you could tell the heat was a factor in this game for the Bills. Some players were visibly exhausted by the fourth quarter, and the Dolphins took advantage. Tua Tagovailoa briefly left this game with what looked like a concussion, but he miraculously made it back for the second half. We've seen the butt fumble by the Jets, but this game brought us the butt punt, which resulted in a safety. The Bills had to get in field goal range down 2, but they had no timeouts. Isaiah McKenzie caught a pass in the middle of the field and couldn't get out of bounds, and as time expired, the Dolphins were victorious by 2 points. The coach's camera in the booth showed the Bills offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey going ballistic, which was kind of funny. Lions at Vikings. The Lions got off to a 14-0 lead, and I'm sure Vikings fans were a little panicked based on how last week went versus the Eagles. But they quickly got even, making it 14-14 on touchdowns by Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook. The Lions responded, going up 24-14 on a field goal and a Jamal Williams touchdown, and seemed to be in the driver's seat going into the fourth quarter. Alexander Madison's rushing touchdown cut it to a 3-point game, and the Vikings took a late lead on KJ Osborne's touchdown, making it 28-24. Jared Goff was intercepted on the final drive, and the Vikings improved to 2-1. Ravens at Patriots. Lamar Jackson continues to put up performances that scream pay the man, as he put up 5 total touchdowns and over 100 rushing yards for the second consecutive week. Mark Andrews caught a pair of touchdowns, and Lamar ran in the final 9-yard touchdown to take a 37-26 lead. There was a scary moment for the Patriots as Mac Jones limped off the field and couldn't put weight on his left leg. It was a high ankle sprain. And speaking of Mac Jones, he did throw for over 300 yards but had 3 interceptions, which highly contributed to the loss. The Ravens continue to win despite the injuries. Bengals at Jets. The Bengals got a much needed victory, and they looked like the Bengals we knew from late last season. Joe Burrow had 3 touchdowns and was sacked a season low 2 times. The Bengals couldn't run in this game, but the passing attack was working. Tyler Boyd scored an awesome 56-yard touchdown, bouncing off defenders and outrunning the Jets secondary. A Jamar Chase 5-yard touchdown on a blown assignment made it a 27-9 Bengals lead. The Jets did not find the end zone, but their kicker Greg Zuerlein did give them 12 points on 4 field goals. Raiders at Titans. The battle of the 0-2 teams, and this seemed like a must-win for both. Derrick Henry had his best game of the young season, putting up 143 total yards and a touchdown. Devontae Adams scored in his 3rd consecutive game, but it was Mac Hollins who stole the show for the Raiders with 158 receiving yards on 8 catches. The Raiders were down 24-10 in the middle of the fourth quarter, but a bid for a comeback fell just short as Derek Carr could not connect with Darren Waller on a 2-point try. Eagles at Commanders. Carson Wentz's revenge game did not go as planned. At one point in this game, the Commanders were outgained 323 to -1 in passing yards. It was that ugly. The Eagles defense sacked Wentz a staggering 9 times in this game, and Washington's offense just looked awful the entire day. Someone who didn't look awful was Eagles wide receiver Devontae Smith, who had a career-high 169 receiving yards and a touchdown. The Eagles haven't faced the best opponents yet, but they're looking like one of the more dominant teams through 3 weeks. Jaguars at Chargers. I was already buying into the Jaguars coming into this week, but holy crap, they look awesome. This 38-10 blowout over the sexy Super Bowl pick might have been the game where Trevor Lawrence arrived, in my opinion. Lawrence had 3 touchdowns, no no turnovers, and made some plays you would expect a generational quarterback to make. James Robinson continues to own the Achilles ends running back's career narrative as he scored another long touchdown. Justin Herbert did not look himself with the rib injury. Their left tackle Rashawn Slater was announced out for the year with a biceps tear, and Joey Bosa is expected to miss significant time with a groin injury. The Chargers look awesome on paper, but they have very important pieces dropping like flies right now. Rams at Cardinals. The Rams jumped out to a 13-0 lead with help of a Cooper Rush 20-yard rushing touchdown. Just like the Jets, the Cardinals' only offense was 4 field goals. This was by Matt Prater. Cam Akers rushed in a 14-yard touchdown to make it 20-9 in the third quarter. Akers later fumbled on the goal line, but the Cardinals could not respond, and they lost this game by 8. Falcons at Seahawks. This was actually an exciting game. Marcus Mariota gave the Falcons a 7-3 lead with a rushing touchdown. Geno Smith later found Will Disley for an 18-yard touchdown to take a 10-7 lead. Cordero Patterson, who had a great game, had a 17-yard rushing touchdown to give the Falcons a 17-10 lead in the second quarter. DK Metcalf hauled in a tremendous touchdown catch from 18 yards out to tie the game at 17. In the late third, Marcus Mariota found Drake London for a 14-yard touchdown as the rookie continues to impress. The Seahawks tried to make a comeback, but Grady Jarrett sacked Geno Smith for a 10-yard loss, and on the next play, Geno Smith threw an interception to Richie Grant, and that was the game. Packers at Buccaneers. Definitely not the most exciting Brady and Rodgers matchup, but it was pretty good at the end. Rodgers had 2 touchdown passes early to Romeo Doubs and Allen Lazard to give the Packers a 14-3 lead. In the second half, this game was all defense, but on the final drive, Tom Brady, of course, made a comeback. Down 14-6, the Buccaneers had a touchdown drive as Brady found Russell Gage for a 1-yard touchdown with 18 seconds to go. On the 2-point attempt to tie the game, Brady was looking for Russell Gage again, but the pass was tipped and the Packers got themselves the victory. 49ers at Broncos, one of the worst football games I may have ever watched. The final score was 11-10 Broncos. This was the second time in NFL history a final score was 11-10. Early in the game, Brandon Ayuk scored a touchdown on a 3-yard pass that should have been offensive pass interference. McManus knocked in a 55-yard field goal to make it 7-3. In the third quarter, Jimmy Garoppolo pulled a Dan Orlovsky and ran out of the back of the end zone to have a safety. Robbie Gould made a clutch 51-yard field goal to give the Niners a 10-5 lead in the early fourth, but in the late fourth, Melvin Gordon III had a 1-yard rushing touchdown to give the Broncos an 11-10 lead. As the Niners were trying to make a final comeback, Jeff Wilson fumbled the ball and Kareem Jackson recovered it as the Broncos took this one 11-10. Both offenses looked god-awful. Cowboys at Giants. It was a field goal fest early as the first 12 points in this game were all field goals. Saquon Barkley's 36-yard touchdown run made it 13-6 Giants, but the Cowboys quickly responded as Zeke punched in a 1-yard touchdown to tie it at 13. Earlier in this game, CeeDee Lamb had a horrible drop, but of course CeeDee Lamb later caught a one-handed 1-yard touchdown to give the Cowboys a 20-13 lead. The Giants made it a 7-point game with 3:42 left in the fourth, and on their final drive, the Giants wide receiver slipped and Daniel Jones had an interception to Trayvon Diggs, which sealed the game. That's it for the Week 3 recap. Once again, leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys next week.